My girlfriend had cheated on me with the male friends she told me not to worry about. Now she's begging me not to break up with her. My girlfriend, Katie F. 22, and I am 26, met back in college, and we've been together for 4 amazing years. I'm actually the first person she's ever been in a relationship with because her parents were super strict during high school. Both our families are quite religious and believe in saving yourself for marriage. Honestly, I don't have strong feelings about that, but Katie is really close to her parents, so we've respected their wishes and waited. Now that she's graduated, I had big plans to propose within the next few months. I even picked out a beautiful ring and was completely head over heels for her. But everything changed last night. Well, it started last weekend. Katie has had this male best friend since high school, and her parents were never fans of him because he claimed to be gay. She was really excited to be at the same college as him, thinking they'd get to spend tons of time together. I've never been a huge fan of the whole male best friend idea, but since he was gay, I figured it was fine. Then, 2 years ago, he came out as bisexual. From that moment, I really started to feel uneasy whenever he was around. I finally told Katie that I wanted her to stop hanging out with him alone. She flipped out, accusing me of being unsupportive and controlling, just like her parents. I told her that it was ultimately her choice, but if she continued to see him alone, I wouldn't be around to stick around for it. It was definitely the biggest problem we had ever faced in our relationship, but thankfully, we managed to work through it. We reached a compromise where Liam and his boyfriend could hang out with Katie and me together as couples, but we agreed that they could never spend time alone. I never wanted to cut her off from her friends, especially since I knew how important they were to her. However, with this new arrangement, we only got together as a group twice before Liam transferred to a different college over the summer. Even after the transfer, Katie stayed in touch with both Liam and his boyfriend through Discord. She remained friends with them after they broke up and even set up a gaming server with them and some of their other friends. Most of these friends were guys, but she always reassured me that nothing inappropriate was going on. In fact, she mentioned that many of them had girlfriends as well. Last weekend, Katie got invited to Liam's birthday party, and she wanted to talk to me about it first to ensure I was okay with her going. She explained that she wanted to see him since it had been 2 years since they last met, and the party was only a 2-hour drive away. A bunch of her friends from the Discord server, whom she had never met in person, would also be there, including some women and Liam's girlfriend. Since I had a weekend trip planned leaving Friday and returning Sunday, I wouldn't be able to go with her. But I told Katie I trusted her completely and had no problem with her going to see her friends. I figured it would be a good opportunity for her to reconnect. The problem began Saturday night. Katie texted me in the morning before she left for the party, then checked in again when she arrived. Throughout the evening, she sent me a couple more messages just to let me know how things were going. Initially, she mentioned that she planned to drive back around 9 or 10 p.m., but as the clock approached that time, the messages suddenly stopped. I figured she must be having a great time and didn't want to come off as controlling, so I decided not to bother her. However, I stayed up and kept an eye on her location just to make sure everything was all right. Eventually, she returned home around 2 a.m. It was definitely unusual for her to be out that late, but I trusted her completely and didn't want to jump to any conclusions. I thought I would just call her in the morning, and she would explain that she got carried away having fun with her friends, and I would be totally okay with it. When I called her Sunday morning, she didn't answer. A few minutes later, I received a text saying she had been sleeping, had a hangover, and wasn't feeling well. This was really strange because Katie doesn't usually drink at all. I advised her to drink plenty of water and let her know I hoped she felt better. After that, I boarded my flight home, still trying to shake off a nagging feeling about the whole situation. Something just didn't sit right with me, but I tried to brush it off, thinking she would explain everything when I got back. When I arrived at my apartment, I found Katie curled up in my bed in the dark. She has a key to my place, but she rarely uses it since I'm usually around to unlock the door for her. I was a bit surprised to see her there, so I asked why she hadn't just stayed at her own apartment to rest up. To my surprise, she didn't say anything in response. Since then, she spent the entire week claiming she's not feeling well and hasn't left my room at all. She even took off work, which is unusual for her. I've been going home during my lunch breaks to check on her and make sure she's eating. While I'm genuinely worried about her well-being, a part of me can't shake the suspicion about what really happened at the party over the weekend. Late last night, I was jolted awake from the couch by the sound of her sobbing. It was the first time she had left my room since I'd gotten home. except for bathroom breaks. I went to her and tried to console her until she calmed down enough to talk. When she finally gathered herself, I asked her what was wrong. That's when she revealed that she had done something horrible. She said that Saturday night, she had somehow gotten really drunk by accident, and that Liam had offered to drive her home. 3 of her friends from the gaming server on Discord had followed in a second car to ensure Liam could get back home after dropping her off. They helped her up the stairs and into her apartment. Then she confessed that she had sex with all of them. All 4 men. My heart dropped, and I felt a whirlwind of emotions flooding over me. I didn't know what to say or how to process what she had just admitted. Katie said she doesn't remember most of what happened that night, claiming she was really out of it. She told me she's been feeling sick ever since, trying to figure out how to tell me what happened because she loves me so much and didn't want to hurt me. Yet she gave away her virginity, something she claimed to be saving for marriage, to 4 other men instead of the one who has spent the past 4 years caring for her. She said she wanted to tell me right when I got back, which is why I found her in my apartment. But she just couldn't bring herself to do it because she was terrified of losing me. She begged me not to break up with her. I told her I needed some time to think things over. Then she pleaded with me not to make her go back to her apartment. I didn't want to turn it into a fight, so I told her she could stay in my room. That night, I could hear her crying intermittently. It was heart-wrenching, and I have to admit, I was brought to tears myself. I can't believe she would throw away our entire relationship, the 4 years we've built together, over one party. I had plans to propose soon, and I trusted her completely. Now that trust feels completely shattered. Right now, I'm at work, and I haven't been able to focus on anything all day. Part of me just wants to tell her to pack her things and get out the moment I get home, as if I never want to see her again. But another part of me wants to sit down and talk it through to see if there's anything left to salvage. I can't tell which side is more unreasonable, and it's driving me crazy. How do I even begin to navigate this situation? I'm lost. Update. Trigger warnings all over this. Sorry for everyone who didn't get that on my last post. My girlfriend has gone to bed early and I have nothing better to do, so I'm finally getting a chance to write this. First, something you can skip through to the actual update if you don't care. I think my other post was taken down for being fake. One of the biggest reasons people seemed to think it was fake was because I wasn't spending time in the comments denying every accusation. I hadn't even opened Reddit since I left work to go check on Katie. It wasn't anywhere near my top priority at the time. For some quick and easy debunking, though. One moment he says he has her location, and the next he's surprised she's at his apartment. I checked her location Saturday night solely to make sure she got home okay. After that, I did not check her location because I am not a stalker who tracks her every move. On iPhone, it shows your location in the text messages with that person, so he either hadn't looked at their texts at all between his flight and getting home, or it's made up. Not everyone has an iPhone like you. I do, but my girlfriend doesn't, so we use an app. And no, I don't get notifications from the app because, again, I don't need to be a stalker. The random excessive details. Sorry, like I mentioned, I had been stewing on everything since she told me what happened that night, and I just wanted to get it all out. Those were all the details I had floating around in my head surrounding the situation. The update is full of typos while the main text is immaculate. Op only wrote the update and the TL doctor. My apologies for being a bit of a mess and in a rush after realizing my girlfriend might have been roped. That's my bad. I've gone back and fixed them. By the way, I had no idea my post would get hundreds of more comments after I closed Reddit that would skeptically analyze everything I wrote to the letter. There's absolutely no concern that she's gotten pregnant. No worries about styes, not at the time. Nah, I didn't even know if I was going to stay with her. Pregnancy and styes would have been a concern if I did. But at the point of writing, I believed she had cheated on me and was leaning towards breaking up with her. No worries that she was potentially drugged and roped. Again, not at the time of writing. I was still reeling from what she had told me, that she had sex with 4 men. She didn't say anything about getting drugged or being roped, which was something I would have assumed she'd have mentioned. That was before I read all the comments that she may be in denial herself, which hadn't even occurred to me. So this religious girl who wanted to wait for marriage suddenly wanted a train run on her. Obviously fake. No, as it turns out, she did not want any part of what happened. For everyone who said that someone in my position wouldn't take the time to write everything out for a post, just take a look at the rest of this subreddit. if people in tough situations didn't share their stories, there wouldn't be any posts here at all. And to those who suggested it was fake or that she must have been a cow for 4 men to carry her upstairs, you can seriously just screw off. All those assumptions were ridiculous, and I genuinely wish everything I wrote wasn't true. Just to be clear, I put all that out there to avoid harassment on this post too. If that doesn't interest you, feel free to skip ahead. After reading all the comments that really opened my eyes to what happened, I left work a little before lunch and rushed home to check on my girlfriend. She was just as I had left her, curled up in bed and crying. The first thing I did was go hold her after asking for her consent, of course. I ended up crying with her. After a while, I gently broached the subject of what happened that night. I wanted to know if she actually wanted any of that to happen. A lot was said during our talk, but to keep it short, as many of you suggested, she did not want any of it. To clarify some things, the friends she was with at the party weren't just random folks she met online. They were personal friends of Liam, someone she had been best friends with for 8 years. While she had never met them in person, these were people she had talked to and gamed with over the past year. I would hear her chatting with them over the headset, and honestly, I never noticed anything strange. She's pretty shy and introverted, so I was glad she had friends to game with. Also, they weren't all guys. From what she said, there were about 4 or 5 women in the gaming server too. At the party, 3 of the men and 2 of the women she knew attended. Liam's girlfriend was there as well, along with a couple of other friends and some of their partners. In total, there were only about 15 guests, and most of them knew each other. It was never meant to be a huge event, just a small gathering of Liam's closest friends at his house. Alcohol wasn't even supposed to be a big part of it. So, now that I've given a bit more context, I can start processing what all this means for us. At the beginning of the party, a lot of people just gamed together since they hadn't had the chance to hang out in person for a while. There was no strict separation between guys and girls, as many guests identified as LGBT+. Everyone mingled and chatted in little groups, just enjoying each other's company. About halfway through the party, one of the guests decided to pour everyone some mystery shots. At first, Katie rejected the offer, feeling unsure. However, Liam urged her to take one for his birthday. When the rest of the guests heard that she had never taken a shot before, they all joined in to encourage her too. It was just one shot, right? Liam assured her it wouldn't affect her too much and that it would wear off well before it was time for her to drive home. He added that if she didn't feel good enough to drive, she could just wait until she was ready. Feeling the pressure, she thought she had to give in. After that point, things started to get a bit hazy for her. There was more hanging out and, of course, more alcohol flowing. People she wasn't even sure who kept handing her drinks and insisting she take them. She didn't want to ruin Liam's party, and she trusted that he would look out for her. Even though she felt off, Katie thought Liam would tell her if something was wrong, and he kept reassuring her that everything was fine. As the night went on, she started feeling really sick. She remembered seeing other guests passed out on the couch, and she was aware that the atmosphere was getting more chaotic. At one point, Liam said he wanted to drive her home personally, using her car, to make sure she was okay. He felt guilty for letting her drink so much, he told her. Katie remembered one of her friends from the Discord group saying he would follow them in his car to take Liam back after they dropped her off. 2 more guys from the Discord also got into Liam's car. She recalled Liam giving her a bottle of water in the car, trying to help her sober up a bit. Then, she remembered being carried up the stairs to her apartment, laughing with the guys, and being brought inside. I won't go into more detail than that. She didn't want any of what happened to her. Was she naive? Maybe. Did she probably overlook some red flags and make choices she shouldn't have? Sure. But regardless of her actions, Katie absolutely did not deserve what happened. The fault lies entirely with the men who did this to her. Katie doesn't want to file a police report, and I'm not going to give her any kind of ultimatum. I've read a lot about how traumatic that process can be, and I fully support her decision not to go through with it. However, if she ever changes her mind and decides she wants to file a report, I will be right there with her, supporting her all the way. What we are going to do is see a doctor. One of the reasons Katie says she spent so much time curled up in bed is that she's been in a lot of pain. She really doesn't want to be poked and prodded down there, but after some gentle convincing and reassurance, she finally agreed to go. She's going to be seen on Monday, and we're also going to get pregnancy and sty testing done, while we're there, something we're both equally worried about. Over the weekend, we've talked a lot. We've cried a lot. There have been plenty of hugs and moments where we've given each other space when needed. I opened up the curtains in the bedroom so at least she can get some sunlight in there. For anyone who is concerned, no, I'm not making her go back to her apartment. And for the people who suggested it, no, I'm not leaving her before or after she heals to find someone who isn't damaged. I'm also definitely not going to rat her out to her parents. Instead, I'm taking the entirety of next week off work to stay home and take care of her. I want to go to as many doctor's appointments as we need and help set up therapy and everything else. I don't think I can ever truly make up for leaving her alone the way I did this past week, but I will be there for her through anything and everything that comes next, whatever that may mean. Again, I want to thank everyone from my first post who helped me realize what a selfish and egocentric idiot I was being. I hope this update reassures everyone who is concerned. Katie isn't okay right now, but hopefully we can work together to get her there. New update, hospital visit update. Today marks the first day I've gone back to work since my initial post, and I wanted to share what has happened since my last update. I apologize in advance if this is difficult to read. I haven't been doing well myself. As with my previous update, please be aware that I'll be discussing very sensitive topics here. This entire post comes with a trigger warning. After talking things over with Katie and discussing some of the points brought up by commenters in my last update, she made the decision to go ahead with getting a rope kit done, just in case she ever wanted to file a report in the future. So I took a trip to her apartment solo before our hospital visit to collect her clothes from that night, as many people suggested in the comments. When I arrived, the place was a complete mess. One of her tables was broken, there was blood on the bed, and her clothes were torn and scattered everywhere. It was clear why she had been so reluctant to return. I made sure to take pictures of everything, just in case we needed them later. We got to the first hospital early in the morning, hoping we wouldn't have to wait too long. Luckily, we only waited around 2 hours, which wasn't terrible. To help pass the time, I brought my Switch for Katie to play Tetris on. It seemed to help distract her, at least for a little while. However, from there, things took a downward turn. Once we were finally moved to an exam room, the nurse asked the usual intake questions. Then, she made Katie recount every detail of what had happened that night, to the best of her recollection, while she sat there looking bored. There were moments when Katie would choke up, and the nurse would respond with an annoyed tone, telling her to go on. After the nurse left, we waited for about an hour before the doctor came in and repeated the same process. A half hour later, the doctor returned to inform us that they didn't have any rope kits at that hospital, and we would need to go to a different one that was over an hour away. At this point, Katie was understandably distraught. We had to wait another half hour to receive her discharge papers so we could leave, and by then, she just wanted to go straight home. Despite how she felt, we decided to head to the second hospital anyway. By the time we arrived at the second hospital, it was already the afternoon since we had stopped for lunch along the way. As soon as we walked in, we could see that the place was packed. We ended up waiting for over 5 hours just to be put into an exam room, and then we had to wait another hour to finally see a nurse. This nurse, again, asked Katie to recount the incident in excruciating detail. He seemed more focused on clarification questions and would get visibly irritated if she couldn't remember every little detail. It felt like we were going through the ordeal all over again. About half an hour later, another staff member came in to inform us that they couldn't perform a sexual assault exam since too much time had passed since the incident. Instead, they suggested that Katie could go to a police station if she felt inclined to make a report herself. They said they could still check her for injuries and run tests for stars and pregnancy if she wanted. I'm not going to dive into all the details, but during the examination, they found some pretty severe bruising, abrasions, and fissures that definitely explained the pain she was in. The whole experience felt traumatic all over again. The doctor was incredibly insensitive, not grasping the gravity of the situation. He kept making jokes throughout the exam, saying things like, "Ouch, that must have hurt." Unfortunately, the only thing they could offer her for the pain was some topical relief, and they mentioned that she might need surgery if her injuries didn't heal on their own. They also suspected she had adductor tendinopathy, which is similar to a thigh muscle strain, so they advised her not to be too active. Katie tested negative for stars, which was a relief, but they cautioned us that some infections might not show up for a while, so we decided to put her on preventative medication. The pregnancy test was also negative, thankfully, but they explained that it was still possible her hormone levels might not be detectable at this stage even if she were pregnant. They recommended we make appointments with her primary care doctor over the next few months for retesting. After all that, we waited another hour for her discharge papers, feeling exhausted and overwhelmed by everything we had just gone through. Between both hospital visits, Katie ended up being charged over $5,000. The insurance company doesn't want to cover it because they claim it was elective. Naturally, we're going to fight this, but it just adds one more thing to our already overwhelming pile of stress. I still have the pictures of her apartment along with the clothes from that night packed in a sealed bag that the hospital didn't want, just in case she ever decides she wants to report what happened. But honestly, things aren't looking good on that front. At least her pregnancy tests have continued to come back negative. Since all of this happened, Katie has not been doing well at all. On the first day after everything, I don't think she spoke a single word. She had her first therapy appointment with a specialist last Wednesday, but she hasn't talked much about how it went, so I'm left wondering. The doctors wrote her out of work until this Wednesday because of the extent of her injuries. Her next therapy appointment is scheduled right after her first day back at work. I'm really hoping that helps her transition back to a normal routine. I've also looked into therapy for myself, as some of you suggested, but that's on the back burner for now while I focus on her. One thing that I felt was a priority, as some of you pointed out, was warning the other women and people in the Discord server about the 4 men who assaulted Katie. However, things didn't go quite as I hoped, and honestly, I'm not even sure what I was expecting in the first place. With Katie's permission, I logged into her Discord account only to find that she had been banned from the server and had been unfriended by almost everyone. There were a couple of people who had messaged Katie to ask what happened, but most of her friends seemed to have turned their backs on her. It was heartbreaking to see. Through those messages, I managed to piece together the version of events that Katie's assaulters have been spreading. It's a long story, and I can definitely expand on it later if anyone wants to know more. But after typing everything above, I'm feeling pretty drained right now. To sum it up, according to them, Katie came on to Liam and supposedly tried to assault him right in front of the other 3 men after they had kindly driven her 2 hours home. I've tried to explain the truth to anyone who would listen, but honestly, I have no idea how many of them actually believe me. I haven't told Katie about this yet. I really don't think it's something she needs to worry about right now. She already has so much on her plate. I want to protect her from any additional stress or pain if I can help it. So that's where things stand right now. I apologize if this post isn't very coherent. I started writing it when I first got to work, and now I'm about to leave. It's been really tough getting all of this out, but I know people are concerned, and I think it's healthier than keeping everything bottled up inside. I'm not sure how long it will be until I have another update. I also apologize if I'm not able to respond to comments on this one, as I'm about to drive home, and then I'll be spending time with Katie. Thank you to everyone for your support and understanding.